you wanna chat through media day? We can start with you. You should be happy. You seem
I'm
happy.
thrilled they
They
they embraced the expectations. That
okay.
was one of the things I hoped they would do. And I mean, I don't think there's any way around it. Like you can't say, oh yeah, no, what was us? It's gonna no. So good on them for saying this is where we got ourselves to. This is what we should have. We know the expectations, and that's. I mean, I don't know that they knew the expectations from day one. I mean, when we first became the coaching staff, I mean, I would still call BS on that in some ways, but now they've reached it. They know what it is, and I think that's good for them. I think that's a good thing. You know, they're not shying away from what people expect them to do.
I think I would have been disappointed had there been any other outcome. Like
Right.
it would be a lie almost to pull that. And I think not that I don't think James Franklin would, but I just think he's sometimes not always upfront about those expectation type things, and that's been kind of frustrating. And then he's also in some ways made his own bed in terms of the expectations things. To your point, like I I don't think people were like James Franklin has to win us a national championship back in 2013, right? Like I agree with you on that. Like, but I think people wanted Penn State to be relevant and good again. After Tatombo's conversation, after the whole scandal and everything, I think James Franklin in a lot of ways has built the expectation, both in what he said, but also what he's done in terms of being a very good football coach, right? But I think, yeah, I appreciated the fact that there was a business likeness of approaching that and going about that, and that stood out to me as well. I think I wouldn't. I don't know. It would feel silly to say it any other way. I guess would be the best way to put that.
Yeah. What stood out to you?
I think the big thing that stood out to me, of course, is the other media news story of the week, which was the whole. Well, we're in Las Vegas. Okay, so I think it's important to if you go, make sure you go watch the whole. It's the 45-minute press conference that James Franklin does on the side, away from what was showed on BTN. He is unprompted, unasked about the Vegas thing. He brought up the Vegas thing on his own, and boy, did he seem pissed off about the Vegas thing. Um, and I have to agree with him. I think this was something we talked about like before Big Ten Media Days. Like, what is the Big Ten going to do to make it feel special? And just between the tweets I was seeing, the lack of tweets and posts I was seeing, the just kind of the lack of vibe coming out of Big Ten Media Day, I agree with him. And I think he makes a perfectly clear and good argument for why they should do it. And we'll get to like the other conference thing here in a second. But I think I think I guess it kind of blends into that, right? Like the point he was trying to make with the SEC comment or the other conference, which got completely blown out of proportion for no real reason, in my opinion. I think what he's trying to say there is like the SEC has a brand and they lean into that brand. Right or wrong, they lean into that brand. The Big Ten, I don't know what the Big Ten's brand is right now. It's a bunch of all these little different brands. It's Oregon, it's USC, it's Penn State, it's Ohio State, it's Michigan, and then there's some other schools in the middle. Like I don't know, and this kind of goes back. I was thinking about like the conversation we had last week. Like who is the Big Ten's voice the way Paul Feinbaum is the SEC voice? And I think that was the point that James Franklin was making. Was it was disappointing to see the Big Ten not take advantage of its brand. Do it in Chicago. Do it in Indianapolis. Like these cities that are rooted in Midwestern feels. Even if you've got these four other teams out here, and you've got Rutgers and Maryland that still are not fitting in well. And I thought it was silly for how that comment got blown out of proportion because in some ways he was complimenting the SEC. He was kind of taking swings at his own conference there and expressing his disappointment with leadership.
Yeah, I think he was taking swings internally more. It felt a little bit of Pat Kraft from the Pat Kraft playbook of don't make us open on the road in conference play. Like it felt a little bit like that in some ways. Like we're hurting ourselves. Um, I do I do think the linguistic red rhetorical voodoo of just not saying the Southeastern Conference is silly. Just like we never called it. I came here from
Man,
Vanderbilt. like my previous institution, just say the SEC. Like there's only two conferences in college football that matter. It's the SEC and the Big Ten. Go ahead and say the SEC is doing this better than us right now, and we needed to be better at it because that's true. They're just not. And I think the swipes that are happening, like when the SEC folks talk about, well, we expanded our conference, but we expanded to places that were already contiguous states. Like it's not like we went out and changed our footprint, right? There's all this back and forth between them. It's just kind of subtle, sort of fun, and in the way politics used to be fun, where you'd say, well, my friend, the senator from Idaho, right? Like, and then you diss them. Like, there's a piece of that that's appealing, but no, Franklin was it was a swipe at the Big Ten, and he's not wrong. Like, you got to make your big stuff, right? And I think, gosh, I don't even want to. If you want to be like big Penn State conspiracy story stuff, like I mean, they didn't schedule Vegas for the year Penn State's going to be the champion, be the preseason leader potentially, but it is. I'm sure someone who's a big Penn State fan can say, "Oh yeah, see the year that Penn State's going to be good." They're doing less with whatever, right? There's got to be somebody out there thinking that, right? Like there just is, right? And they're wrong, but
I hadn't
yeah.
even thought about that. And then
But
the thought that crossed my mind, and now it's Bill and Linda in York, age 72, 74 of York, Pennsylvania, that are exactly.
Well, we're going to talk about them later, going up those temporary when the time comes, because I can't imagine. But no, Franklin was correct. The Big Ten is, and maybe it doesn't mean as much to some people in the Big Ten. Right?
I think there's some truth to that, right? Like for Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State, maybe depending on the year. Oregon, USC, but then like in a weird way, it's like we still haven't fully embraced like those are the football schools, right? And like outside of like maybe like until recently Kentucky, Vandy, like every single SEC school to a degree, some shape or fashion, football, it's a football conference, even when its basketball teams are very good. In the Big Ten, you kind of have that void of like Illinois, Indiana, Purdue, like those are basketball schools that I don't think football means as much. And I mean, you can see that in the way their stadiums are designed, or the amount of their fans that show up. And I think that's, but I also understand what James Franklin is saying is like Tony Petitti's out there like talking this big game, and I think some of the things he's saying I agree with, right? But then when it comes time to show off, we're not doing that, and I think that's where it falls short.
Well, and I think they've set up the Big Ten has set themselves up through Petitti through either big success or a big swing and miss, depending on how the playoff fortunes play out, right? If you get the format that the Big Ten wants, okay, see, we're in it, we're invested, it's our idea, this is how it's going to work. If for some reason they don't come to an agreement and you stay at 12 and it's whatever and they can't come to an agreement, I mean, they're going to get to 16 at some point, but it's going to have to figure out who's weighs who. And if the Big Ten blinks in that process, then that's a little bit less for them in terms of perception and whatever else, you know. No. And I guess I can make an argument for any of the formats at this point, but yeah, I think it just does. It doesn't feel like, you know, the NFL used to say it's about protecting the shield, right? And that became kind of a cliche. I'm not sure that the Big Ten knows that everybody's doing it all together and with the same level of passion, and that's a challenge.
Yeah, I think no, and I think that's a good analogy because of the whole "it just means more" thing, right? Like that is the SEC's brand. What is the Big Ten's brand? Big stage, big light. Like I only know that because I'm a weirdo, and I know that. But like,
well, right, and
casual college sports fans know what the SEC brand is. They don't know what the Big Ten brand is.
Right, and for me, I'm just all the time with my staff and the people. You know, more isn't better. Better is better. Bigger isn't better. Better is better. Right? So how do you get to better and not just bigger?
No, I thought that was I really thought it was interesting that he kind of unprompted brought that up, and I think he's right. I think I do agree with him and collectively the mindset out there that like it is weird that we are judging people on these different roles between 8 conference games and 9 conference games. That kind of seemed to be a little bit of the story, but I didn't I just didn't understand why SEC people were fired up about that when he was actually taking a backhanded shot at his own conference, right? Like
No,
it,
and I think that's fair.
yeah,
And I think part of it is him becoming the elder. I mean, I think he was stepping into a role as more of a voice for the conference, or trying to in some ways. But I didn't take it as a swipe at the SEC. I mean, the 8-9 probably is right, and I think Penn State unfortunately is an easy target when you get into that discussion. You say, oh, 8-9, well, okay, well then schedule somebody at non-conference, right?
right.
And that's what many people did to clap back
Yeah.
last week too. So